This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos Country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Hello there, Broncos Country, and it is once again time for another episode of Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and with me as always, I have my co-host and good friend, Mr. Nick Kendell, and we have a great guest here today, Mr. Sayre Bedinger, and man, we're excited to have you. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing pretty well also. And so Tuesdays have become the podcast day. You know, we record two that end up being about an hour long each, and then editing, which takes about another 2 hours. So that's Tuesdays become the podcast day, but with the weather this poor as it's been here in Iowa, another winter weather advisory, it's been insane. That damn gopher, groundhog, whatever the heck it is, lied to us this year. So that's okay. Not the worst way to spend a Tuesday.
Yeah, I walked from my house to my car this morning, and my hair froze.
Wow.
So
that's not what you want.
No, not exactly. Not what I like. But I want to make sure everyone knows that you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Carl Dumler MHH, and Nick at Nick Kendell MHH, and Sayre at Sayre Bedinger. You can follow the podcast Twitter account at HuddleUpPod, and make sure to subscribe to our show and leave us a rating as we value your input on our show. You can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, and even that of YouTube. Also, make sure you head over to Mile High Huddle, an affiliate of 24/7 Sports and the CBS Sports Digital, to find ours and our co-writers' articles and all things pertaining to your Denver Broncos. This podcast is powered by Overtime Media. Well, we told you last week that this would be coming, and last week we had Cam on the show and picked the offensive teams, and I was a little disappointed. I think Nick's team actually won the day.
Naturally.
I'm trying to be okay admitting that, but it is what it is. So this week we're going to do
who the real
defense.
winners were actually?
Who's that?
The listeners.
Yes, I hope so.
That's the number one in our hearts.
Yes, but this week we are going to go to the defensive side of the ball and try to put ourselves together a great team. And I cannot lose 2 weeks in a row. So I'm focused in. I'm ready to go. You gentlemen ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, Nick is up first for this draft. So let's see what he does with the number one pick.
And I am nonchalantly walking to the podium. Everyone always says sprinting to the podium. I think I'm going to come in a little bit more style. But I'm going to take the best player in this draft class here. And I'm accidentally filled out for a Sayre there. I don't want to give him that. My bad. You got the next pick. I know you love him, but Nick Bosa, edge rusher from Ohio State. I think that, as much as I am a fan of some other guys in this class, I'm not going to put anybody on a tee for you guys coming up, but I think that Nick Bosa, there's just such a difference level in his ability compared to the rest of the guys. He can play 4-3. He can play 3-4. He's an amazing edge rusher. He can go inside. He's got bend. He's got great hands. He can play equally good against the run. And I think that there's no other player in this class that is as much of a guaranteed game changer as Nick Bosa. So I'm going to go with him with the first pick, get the second most important position on a football team in the edge rusher, and take the Ohio State Buckeye here.
All right. Well, that would leave you, Sayre.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I do like Nick Bosa a lot. I would have probably taken him if you had left him on the board there, but I also think there's a guy who could maybe contend for that number one defensive spot in this year's draft. And I think it's another edge player. I think it's Josh Allen out of Kentucky. I don't know if he's going to be as twitchy of an athlete as Nick Bosa, but I definitely think that the production is it's too good to be overlooked at this point. You look at what he's done over the past 3 years with the Wildcats. He's one of the most consistently productive guys. He's got insane length. And I think he's going to be more scheme versatile than meets the eye. So I'm really looking forward to him. And I'm going to make a surprise pick here. I'm going to pass on Quinnen Williams, and I'm going to take Josh Allen. Like you said, Nick, that edge player. That can be the number two most important position on your team, as we've seen the Broncos win a Super Bowl with Von Miller kind of carrying the team on his back. So I'm going to take Josh Allen with the number two pick here in this draft.
I will say I'm a little bit surprised with the pick, but I don't hate it at all. I mean, looking at how valuable linebackers that could not only get after the quarterback, but drop equally well into space, into coverage, both man and zone. I mean, look what the Patriots did with Dante Hightower. Look what they did with Kyle Van Noy. I mean, linebackers that can do both and press the A gap, the B gap, come on delayed blitzes. You can really manufacture pressure in that way. And having a guy like Allen, I mean, there's a chance that he only ends up being Anthony Barr, who's a very good player, but never really developed into that pass rusher. But I think that the twitchiness, the upside, and the versatility make him one of the most intriguing players in the entire class that I'm fascinated to see what a team does with him at the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, then that leaves me here, and I got to take my top defensive player on the board. I've gone back and forth on this. I've been thinking about this all day because I said I cannot lose to Nick 2 weeks in a row. And part of me was thinking, okay, maybe early on in this draft, I should go for positions that aren't very deep and get those positions out of the way. Then I can still get a very solid roster all the way through. But again, Quentin Williams, he's just on a different level. You talked about it earlier of he could be maybe the number one player in this draft. I mean, he's got a cleaner, obviously, medical record than that of Nick Bosa, and that interior pressure. Whew, it's a lot of fun to watch. So anyway, he's going to be my first pick, and I'm up again. And I guess I'm going to go. Oh boy, I'm going to go an edge rusher here. I have some of these guys rated pretty closely, so it's I guess kind of pick your poison. But I guess I'm going to go with Clelin Ferrell, and I think he's a safe pick. I think you kind of know what you're getting from him. Maybe the other guys have a little bit more upside. But I just like what he brings day in, day out. He's a clean guy, hard worker. I love him.
Great pick.
I really like both those picks. Clelin Ferrell, I do think that he probably has less pass rush upside than some of these other guys. But his ability, I mean, obviously you got a multi-year starter there, high-end character guy as well. But his ability to be a two-way player, I mean, he can get after the quarterback, maybe not the most bend, not the most twitchy, but his length and the power that he brings off the edge, stopping the run, I mean, you can't run to his side. He's going to engulf the tackle, he's going to contain the edge, and he's going to force guys back inside to help. So really fortifying the trenches there, getting two guys that you really can't leave one-on-one very often. So I get it. I love it. I think it's both good moves.
Great pick. I'm gonna go inside. I'm going outside in a little bit, but I got to take my guy. I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what it is that's kind of been causing his fluctuating up and down draft boards, but I am extremely high on Ed Oliver. I think he's just going to be a phenomenal NFL player. I know he kind of had some injuries he was dealing with. We'll use the air quotes with the word injuries there this past year. Don't know how much of that was just him trying to stay 100% for the draft or whatnot. But I love what Ed Oliver brings to the table as just far as explosiveness off the snap. I got to watch a cool inside look at just how he works and how hard he works off camera. That's kind of ironic to say that I got to see an inside look at it, but I mean, the coaches were talking about what he does on a day-to-day basis, and just to hear that from his coaches, to hear how hard this guy works, to hear how he really came into college with the goal of going to the NFL. I mean, we knew more than a year ago now that he was going to be entering the 2019 NFL draft, so it wasn't a surprise that he's in this class. But I love what he brings to the table as a 3-technique defensive tackle, and I think paired next to Josh Allen, I think he's going to be a phenomenal fit, and I'm liking what I'm building so far there, just on the meat of this defense.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Ed Oliver is a guy that, there's some questions about where he's going to play. The size is definitely a question, but now that Jeffrey Simmons has torn his ACL, RIP, that really, really stinks. But I think that after Quentin Williams and Ed Oliver, there's a tier difference in these other interior pass rushers. So you took the top two off the board. That's who I was going to go with if you let him get by, but there he goes. So what can you do? I have back-to-back picks now, and number one, another tier difference player is here. I don't think there's a player as good as him in this position. I'm going to go with LSU's Devin White with my first pick of the back-to-back. I think that, you got some other good linebackers there that can offer some ability, but I think Devin White's a guy that, he has athleticism, and movement skills that I think he could play Will. I don't know if he has the instincts there yet, but I do see upside to play Mike, and definitely easily a day one strong side linebacker with how physical he is. He can scrape, he can get after it. So I think the upside is tremendous there. And after him, the top of this linebacker class, it ain't it, Chief. I mean, there's some talent there, but I just don't think there's anybody as good as Devin White there. So I'm going to get a guy like that. And then this next pick, I'm actually having a hard time here. When you guys have been talking, I've been trying to fill it out, move it along here, keep the flow good. But man, I'm having a hard time with this one. But man, I'm just going to go with the first secondary player here, and I'm going to go with Byron Murphy.
Nice.
There are some questions about his size and whatnot, but I mean, I think compared to the rest of the cornerbacks in this class, there's no real off-field concerns. He's a twitch guy. I think he can play both man and zone coverage. He's got ball skills. He's got tenacity. Not the biggest dude, but I'll play him up there against anyone because the just demeanor and physicality and the way he can close on guys, and even against the run game. I mean, he's a smaller guy, but he'll come down and hit. Mm-hmm. So I think that he's cornerback one in this class because he doesn't have the issues that, say, a Greedy Williams has or the limited athleticism that a DeAndre Baker has. So I'm going to get the best cornerback in this class, in my opinion, in Byron Murphy. And I know I'm a trench guy here, but going to kind of round out, and I got a player for every single level of the defense now in Nick Bosa, Devin White, and Byron Murphy.
Man, I like that. I like the way you're building things there. That's nice. Murphy's a great player. Obviously had the great finish to the season. With Josh Allen and Ed Oliver on board already, I think I'm gonna make a bit of a surprise pick here. Maybe it won't be super surprising to you guys. I'm gonna take Ja'Kai Polite from Florida. I want to get some more speed off the edge for this unit, and I really want to round out that pass rushing trio that I've got coming inside out here. I like that fit a lot on the opposite side of Josh Allen. I think that Ed Oliver on the inside is going to eat up some blockers, and I think Josh Allen's going to command attention. So Ja'Kai Polite can do what he does best. He can win one-on-ones. So I'm going to pair those two edge rushers together and maybe reach a little bit there, but I think it fits with what I've got building elsewhere.
He was one of my guys, like I said earlier, that I had pretty closely related or graded with Clellan Ferrell. Mm-hmm. So I definitely like him. He's an explosive athlete, guy that can bend, just has that high motor that just wants to hit people. Mm-hmm. So you love that on your team. I'm going to go a little bit of a shocker here.
Uh-oh. Everybody sit down.
Oh, boy. All right.
Put it in park if you're driving, everybody.
I'm going to go two of the same position.
Uh-oh. Wow. Okay, now I'm confused. I'm the edge of my seat.
Here we go.
Oh, well.
Mac Wilson.
Alabama.
And Devin Bush.
Wow.
Okay.
There goes the linebackers.
King Carl loading up.
I wanna take over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, when I got Quinnen Williams, now Mac Wilson, Devin Bush, I just think there's such a huge drop off after Devin White, Mac Wilson, Devin Bush. I mean, it's just there's some guys that you could rate pretty closely. We just had Andre on our podcast, and he was talking about that number 4 guy. It's hard to tell who's actually going to be that number 4 guy in this draft at that position. And I just think those off-ball linebackers are so important. And again, when it's such a weak class, if I can get 2 of the strongest guys, I like what I can do with my defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
that's interesting. I really like that strategy there. And man, you got speed. I'm not sure about if I run right at you. That's going to be the question, but the speed at the second level, I mean, both of those guys can run and cover for days.
That's why I got Quinnen Williams, buddy.
There you go. He's going to penetrate. He's going to penetrate. I like it. I like those picks, and I like this pick too. I'm taking Dexter Lawrence out of Clemson. I'm going to pair him on the inside with Ed Oliver. I think that he's going to be a really, really good pro player. Just got that nasty disposition, very physical, very confident in his abilities, and much more technical, I think, than people give him credit for. Obviously got the off field, but I don't think Clemson was too worried about it. They didn't kick him off the team or anything like that. It was kind of just a slap on the wrist. Hey, here, finish your career on the sidelines wearing a jacket at the national anthem. I'm sure it was a bummer for him, but at the same time, I think he's ready for the professional level. I think pairing him with Ed Oliver and then those 2 edge players, I really feel like that's going to be hard to run against. It's going to be hard to keep those guys at bay in the pass rush department. And so I'm really confident in that front that defensive front four there, and I've still got another spot open for later.
Well, good pick there. That's a guy that, probably the highest nose tackle potential in this class. But, you got Quinnen Williams who can play nose or that 5 tech. I'm curious to see if Carl will do some reshuffling there when it comes down to it. But as far as a pure nose tackle, 0-1 technique, Dexter Lawrence, he honestly might be able to lose some weight and get a little bit more juice. But, his freshman year tape, unbelievable. So that's you got some meat there. And I also really like also how you have the big and little, pinky in the brain, maybe, so to speak, with Dexter Lawrence and Ed Oliver.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, I am on the clock now. And, man, first picks, it's always easier. Then it kind of gets a little bit more difficult because you have to fill out kind of where you want to go with this and whatnot. But I'm going to go with a guy that I think there's a drop-off at edge after this guy with my first pick here. And I'm going to take Brian Burns. Some people think he might be the second best edge rusher in this class. He's got incredible bend. When you talk about ankle flexion, this is a guy that has some of the best in the class. He absolutely abused multiple teams this year. He is a little bit lighter, but since I have an edge like Nick Bosa, who is dominant both ways, run and pass, I think I can go with a little bit more pass rush upside, and Brian Burns, and I think I potentially have. Looking at the roster here, I think I'll probably end up with the highest. I really like Josh Allen and Josh Polite as well. I don't know. I'll give you a run for your money with that one, but I really like to get Brian Burns and Nick Bosa because they're both different as well. So I feel like they complement each other.
Yeah, very good.
And then on this other one, man, I'm having a hard time. So let's be completely honest. I am stalling for all my cards, everything that's worth it. I wish Jeffrey Simmons was still healthy. I was legit upset for like an hour today at work, just thinking about how upset I was for Jeffrey Simmons getting hurt. I know he's so talented. There's a lot going on there, but gosh, I guess I'm going to have to go with the upside here. And I'm going to take my, which way do I go? I'm doing it. I'm going to go with Greedy Williams here.
Nice.
There are some questions about his ability as far as, does he take some plays off? Is he a guy that, does he have the work ethic? But I feel like with Byron Murphy and Greedy Williams, I'm the only person who's taken a cornerback so far. So I'm definitely getting the highest rated tandem at cornerback. And looking at what the Patriots did this offseason, in the Super Bowl, not in the offseason, they pay for secondary and they find guys in the front seven, which is totally weird. It's like backwards, but they have talent at the secondary. So I'm going to go with the high upside guys at cornerback because I think there's a drop off after them. I'm going to go with the blue chippers there at cornerback. So I'm going to take Brian Burns and then Greedy Williams and then kick it off back to Sayre.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to keep the theme of cornerbacks going here. I'm going to take DeAndre Baker out of Georgia. Just watching some of his, obviously from this past year, but some of his junior tape in the college football playoff really impressed me early this season when I was kind of starting my evaluation of him. And I really think he's got top cornerback potential in the next level. I really do. I think he's got good ball skills. I think he plays more physical than his size would lead on. And so I'm pretty confident in him being my cornerback one here on this roster. I know he's not quite as big as you'd like for a typical shutdown corner, but I think he's got great skills. And he's obviously, he's been starting for a long time. So love that experience, love the leadership that he brings to the table. And I'd be excited about him just picking off some passes from these guys that I've got lined up on the front.
Yeah, I like his game a lot. I like him even better now that we got Fangio here with that more zone stuff going on. So he's a good fit and an interesting player. And he could easily end up the best cornerback out of this class.
Oh man. So it's me again. Part of me is thinking about going again, same position 2 times in a row, but I think I'm going to mix it up here just a little bit this time. I'm going to go ahead and go with my top safety in this draft. You guys have your cornerbacks you took the top 3 guys, so can't really go that direction. I like this cornerback class. I think it's pretty deep. I think there's a lot of guys, depending on what kind of defensive system you want to run, that can fit. So I'm going to go with Deontay Thompson. I know he didn't close out the season very well, and I know a lot of people are going to get after him for he has a little bit of limitations on some things, but I still love the kid. Yeah. There was a reason that for a long time he was being thought he could be a top 10 pick. And so he's shown plenty on the field. He can come down, help out in the run game. He can cover. He can get sideline to sideline. He's not, like I said, he's not the most athletic guy, but still, for free safety back there, this is one of those guys. I feel like, again, if I'm looking at, I know you guys have maybe better edge rushers than me, but I feel like middle of the field, nobody can compete with what I've got right here. With Quinnen Williams, Mack Wilson, Devin Bush, now Deontay Thompson. That middle of the field, that's going to be a tough place to do anything against me here. And then I'm going to go and get my other pass rusher, and I'm going to get Montez Sweat here.
There you go.
Yeah, it's the one guy that's left, and I'm sitting here going, yeah, he makes a lot of sense. There's talk. Some teams like him even as a top 10 pick in this upcoming draft.
Yeah,
I'm not quite there, but again, this guy, he was the most dominant player at the Senior Bowl, just proved he was top talent. And so, again, getting Clelin Ferrell at one edge, Montez Sweat at the other. They're not the most bendy guys, but I got a lot of power on the field. Got a lot of guys that can collapse the pocket, and I just like how I'm formed the middle of this field.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you. When you said the most dominant player at the Senior Bowl, did you mean just edge rushers or in general?
From what I understand, it was in general.
Okay, because I would say that he wasn't the most dominant edge rusher even. He was good, and he won the weigh-ins, but we all took our edge rushers now, but Charles Omenihu from Texas?
Yeah.
He's an interesting guy.
I guess you could argue him.
He was killer in the game. I mean, I don't think one is definitely better than the other, but I was just curious. I wanted to bring his name up now that edges are pretty much taken off the board.
Yeah.
Oh
man, that was a mistake by me because I could have waited because you guys weren't going to take him.
Too late.
I know. Dang it, it's on the board. All right. I'll wait.
It's on the board. It's written in stone. I'm going to go ahead and take my first safety. Now I got DeAndre Baker in the last round at cornerback. I'm going to take Nasir Adderley out of Delaware. I think that probably the top small school guy in this draft. Definitely going to come in and play with his hair on fire. He's got cornerback experience at the collegiate level, and he plays like it. He's very good in coverage, very physical. I just love the way that he attacks the football in all areas of the game, in all phases. He's willing to take on blocks. He can play in the box. He can pretty much do everything. So I kind of feel like Adderley's going to be that glue that holds the secondary together for this roster I'm putting together.
Well, that's too bad because that's who I was going to pick. So good job, you boys. Take the guys from. I was looking at either one of those there. Well, hey, what can you do? That's the name of the game. So I'm going to go with something here a little bit scheming and conniving, but that's what I'm all about. The Patriot way. I'm going to go with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and the reason I'm going to go for him is because honestly, he could be one of the best safeties in this class. He could end up being the best safety in this class. He really could. Yeah. He took huge steps up this year. But not only is he one of the best safeties in this class, for my money, he might be the best slot in this class. He is so smooth at that position, physical. He's got swag. He's got ball skills. And I think that positional versatility might give me a little bit of flexibility down the end as well with this roster. I'm constructing it. But I mean, I think there's a really good chance that he climbs up into the first round. People are starting to get around to his tape now. You're starting to hear his name more and more, but his tape this year was phenomenal. He's so smooth. And again, that versatility where he could play strong safety, he could play free safety, he could play slot. I kind of got a lot of different ways I could go. So going with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson there. And if you haven't checked out his tape yet, he's somebody that I am just very impressed with his ability to play. I mean, he can do so much. And now back to me. I got back-to-back, and man, this is a really interesting spot here. I feel like I could go a number of different ways. I still need another safety. I need a hybrid type linebacker safety, potentially a slot. And I need to fill up the defensive line. So, man, for me, I'm going to go with a high upside player here. You guys can put Jeffrey Simmons on your clock here. I'm taking him off the ACL because we're not going to be able to see him this year. So that sucks. But I'm going to go with Christian Wilkins here. I really think that he's got, he's not Jeffrey Simmons. He's not Quinnen Williams. He's not Ed Oliver, but he's the next guy in my opinion. I think he can play 7, he can play 5, he can play 3. You can use him on wraparounds, on stunts, and you can even get a little creative and use him in space. I mean, he played safety this year at the Clemson spring game. He's that kind of athlete. So I'm going to go with Christian Wilkins here. High ups, or a very high character guy, very high floor, and another guy that can get after the passer. And when I got a guy like Nick Bosa and Brian Burns working with him, I think I can generate some sort of pass rushing with him as the third option.
Yeah, I love that pick. Christian Wilkins, one of my favorite guys in this draft, specifically in the, just a deep defensive line class. I think his leadership skills really stand out. So like that pick a lot. I'm going to go homer pick, Nick. And maybe this will drive you crazy because you were saving this for later. I'm taking as my slot. I'm taking Amani Hooker out of Iowa. I think that he is going to be one of the most underrated players from this class. We've seen Iowa guys just get consistently underrated throughout the draft process. I mean, looking back at Josh Johnson and Desmond King and Micah Hyde, those guys were all underdrafted, and I can't quite figure out why. I mean, obviously, their measurables weren't as good as other players, but the tape don't lie. And when people turn on Amani Hooker's tape, they're going to see a guy who can fly around the field at pretty much any position. He could be that linebacker safety type. He's not necessarily the biggest linebacker safety, but he could play that spot. I think that he's going to really excel kind of in the same role that we've seen Desmond King play at the NFL level. I think he can play corner. He can play outside in a pinch, but I think he's going to work really well inside playing in the box.
All right. Well, I mean, there are some questions about his athleticism, but if you're looking for an intelligent dude, he can play a multitude of areas, ball skills, just an incredible awareness in space. Man, Amani Hooker, he's going to make somebody very happy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's another one who gives you some versatility as well, because he could either play strong safety or slot.
Yeah.
You Iowa boys.
You're about to jump on board, Carl.
Maybe someday. Maybe you guys will convince me there. But I guess it's kind of crazy looking at our boards here. I'm surprised at how – I mean, I know Dexter Lawrence, Ed Oliver have gone, Christian Wilkins, Quinnen Williams – but we kind of seem to go edge and off ball and secondary a little bit more focused in this one. And maybe that just speaks to the depth of this class and kind of going, well, if I don't get this guy, there's another guy that's rated really close on what he can bring to the table. But I'm going to fill out my defensive end position here. And I'm going to go Draymond Jones on one side and Jeffrey Tillery on the other side. Two guys that are very different and what they bring to the table. You got one guy that's a perfect one-gap system kind of guy, get after the quarterback in Draymond Jones. And then you got the other guy that's power, that can drive a guy back and help out in the run game. I like the combination now that I really have here with those interior guys. Quinnen Williams, kind of the all-around, do everything, power, speed. Draymond Jones, speed. Like I said, Jeffrey Tillery on the other side. I think that's a pretty good combination for getting after the quarterback, plus then have my edge guys.
That's nice. I like that.
Carl, if you draft me to play cornerback, I'm just telling you I'm not very good. If it comes to that.
Cornerback, what does that matter?
Ask Denver Bronco fans, man, every time. You better take a cornerback in your mock. It's okay. I'm sorry.
All right. Sorry about it.
Don't yell.
Well, guys, I think that I've got to go here with man.
It gets hard.
It does get hard. It does get tough. But I'm just looking at really complementary pieces. I don't know if people are going to necessarily really like my team on paper, but I think as far as the complementary pieces, I'm doing pretty well so far, and I think I'm going to keep in theme. I'm going to go with Taylor Rapp, the safety out of Washington. I think when you combine him with Nasir Adderley and Amani Hooker, your safety position or even your linebacker safety or your slot, those positions are all covered well. But I think that Rapp is going to be a really good, strong safety at the NFL level. He's just in attack mode at all times. I mean, he might not have the best range, but you're not going to ask him to play deep free safety. You're going to ask him to play up in the box. You're going to ask him to take on blocks. And I've got Adderley to play that free safety or play some man coverage when need be. I just want to see Taylor Rapp get in the box and and be physical. Be physical with some slot players. Be physical with some tight ends. Get after the quarterback a little bit. I think he's got a big potential in that role at the next level.
Good pick. Good pick. Now, that's an interesting guy. We got a couple Washington players off the board now from that secondary, and I'm trying to look over your guys' rosters here as much as I'm trying to look over mine to kind of figure out what I need to do and where I can go with this. And, man, gosh. Well, I think
while you're deliberating, this is a really good, I mean, just looking over these lists already, this is a great defensive draft. I mean, just considering that we've put together these 3 squads here, this is a great class.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's a lot of talent, and man, it's too bad. It's not too bad because I absolutely love Bradley Chubb, but man, there's a lot of edge talent this year. The Broncos, if they would have got their quarterback last year, they'd have had just a edge or defensive tackle or linebacker to choose from there. Yep. That could have just, man, it could have gone so many different ways. All right, well, I think I'm going to be, a little bit different here, and I'm going to go with another cornerback. I'm going to go with, should I? Gosh darn it, Carl. Carl's got none of them, and I want all of them. Man, I know, right? It's so hard. All right, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Julian Love as one of these guys here. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I already told her. I think he's the next best cornerback here, and he's another one that has some inside-outside ability. And now I got a lot of guys that can come down and match up. The only guy that I really don't feel comfortable with inside in that kind of slot is Greedy Williams, but Brian Murphy can play there. Julian can play there, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So just a lot of matchup ability in that second level, and just excited about that potential. I mean, just a lot of coverage guys. And then for my next pick, I'm going to go with a guy who there's some questions about his position, but I think he's a 5-tech, 3-tech. He can play some edge, but I'm not going to play him there. That's no fun. I'm going to take Rashawn Gary here, and I think his best play, 5-tech, 3-tech going forward. Get a guy, let him attack going forward. You know, he's not a guy with a great bend, but the amount of power and the speed that he can generate at 6'5", 280 is unbelievable. Some people think he's going to be a top 10 pick. I think he's more closer to a bottom of the first round pick, but still, that pass rush ability. I mean, Christian Wilkins, Rashawn Gary, Nick Bosa, Brian Burns, whatever. Who cares at that point? So I'm going to go with Rashawn Gary there.
I like that. I like his ability to play inside out. He's going to be a good player at the next level. You know, I'm looking over these cornerbacks available here, and I know I've got to go that direction. I know that I've got to I got to get somebody opposite DeAndre Baker here. I've got to get somebody who's going to pick off some passes. I think that a player who has kind of proven that he can really thrive behind a great defensive front, Clemson's Trayvon Mullen. I'm going to take him off the board here. I know that he doesn't have the best resume of the corners in this draft, but I think he's going to be maybe even a better pro than he was in college. I think when he's not with that Clemson defense, I think his skills are going to stand out. He's just a great athlete at 6'2", 190. Got the size, got the length, got the athleticism. He's got all the tools there. Played in a great defense at Clemson, had a great defensive coordinator there, and just understands what it takes to play at a high level. And so I'm going to bank on his potential, and I'm going to put him opposite DeAndre Baker.
All right, and that means that Carl is on the board with nobody left to play cornerback.
Pretty much. No, I have one guy that I really, really still like. But beyond that, I'm going to go with a safety here. I'm going to go with Juwan Thornhill of Virginia and get a guy that he's played some of that cornerback position. So, again, you're looking at guys who can add some versatility to a defense. He had a lot of picks while he was in college. I think he had 13 interceptions, so can be a turnover guy when I'm getting some pressure up the middle. And I just again, since you guys have taken all the corners, I guess I can save that position a little bit. And I got all the remainers, whatever we have left here. No, but I will go corner here finally. And I'll get my guy, Amani Arurie of Penn State. And, I mean, I think he's one of those guys. He didn't have a great Senior Bowl. I heard he was injured, so that plays into it a little bit. But beyond that, I thought he had a great year, very smart kid, maybe not the most athletic, but he's a guy that can get after people. Or he can He can cover well. He's got size. He's got that ability, especially if I'm thinking like the Broncos. I think he's a perfect fit in what the Broncos look for in a cornerback. So that's going to be my guy there for my first corner.
Man, good pick. I can't spell his name, so I did the best I could.
Oh, I love that. Look at that. Yeah. That's how you spelled it.
Yeah, thank God the tight end from Missouri did not enter the draft. That's too much for
Yeah.
Albert Okwuegbunukune. Nailed it.
I think you got it right there. That's perfect. That's not quite it doesn't roll off the tongue quite like Rock Ya-Sin.
No, definitely not.
That's one of the cooler names in the draft. Gosh, I'm kind of debating here. I really want to fill out this defensive front that I've got, and I've got a couple guys in mind here that I would put in. I want so badly to make a homer pick of Anthony Nelson again, but I'm going to veer away. I'm going to let you leave him on the board later, Nick, if that's what we're going to do here. We can talk about him at another time. But I'm going to go with Alabama's Isaiah Buggs. I think just looking at the complementary pieces here, we got Dexter Lawrence, we've got Ed Oliver. I need a guy who can come in and play some 5 technique in a 3-man front. And be scheme versatile as well. I think Isaiah Buggs is one of the guys that I've really liked a lot. Just watching some of the Alabama tape, he really stands out. He's one of the big trees in a crazy forest full of them. He's not special because he played at Alabama. I think he's going to have a really great pro career. I think he's maybe being a little overlooked right now.
Absolutely. All right. Well, now we only have 4 picks left. This is going to be the end of the 10th round here. So I got back-to-back picks here, and I still need to nab another linebacker, a nose tackle, a safety, and then kind of a hybrid guy. And I think that there's a hybrid guy in this class that I think he's not getting the hype that he deserves right now. He's a little bit erratic in coverage, but if you're looking for a guy with incredible size that can come downhill and just lay wood and be a guy that, just absolute presence on the field, Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State. I remember watching him, prepping because I'm a psychopath fan, but prepping for Iowa to play Mississippi State. And that safety from Mississippi State, my God, if he didn't create some just massive hits coming downhill, he closes space so quickly. He is a guy that I do worry a little bit about his ability in coverage because he does tend to gamble. But you know what? I'll go for that upside, especially with a guy with his size and his movement skills. Put him in the box, put him deep, put him at a nickel, I'd send him on a blitz. I don't care. He's a guy that I want on my team, and I wouldn't be surprised if he walks out of the combine because apparently he's a dude who just eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Like, people go nuts for that kind of guy. Classic. Oh, he's a locker room gym rat type. That's the type, and the versatility. I'm actually going to put him in that linebacker safety role for now on my thing. But Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State, I'm a big fan of his game. I took him in. We did a mock draft with Eric Trickle yesterday, and I took him with the Patriots there at the end of the second round. And I think he's a guy that, you're looking for a replacement of Patrick Chung. This is the dude. Yeah, I think he has that ability. So I'm going to go with him there. And then for my next pick, there's a couple different ways I could go, but I think I'm going to take, like Carl did earlier, after those big 3 linebackers went off the board, we've been linebacker doesn't even matter anymore. Nobody's taking the dude.
You're welcome.
Hey, man, that's good strategy. I don't mind it one bit. I'm going to go, I don't know if it's a homer pick, so to speak, but he's a guy that I like a fair amount. I know that not everybody is as big on him, but I think he's got good potential. I like how he moves around. And I'm going to go with a guy. He's been linked with the Broncos somewhat, so I'm going to go with Jermaine Pratt here. He's a guy also that I think he matches well with Devin White. He's a lot different than Devin White. They both kind of play that inside linebacker position, but Jermaine Pratt's a converted safety. He's got more movement skills, and I also saw some ability as a blitzer here. So I'm going to finish that off. I'm going to go with Jermaine Pratt with the pick there at the kickoff the 11th round, and that'll be my linebacker position.
Yeah, he was one of the guys that I was kind of saving for later. Really, really like his game. And I love the fact that he kind of took over the captainship of that North Carolina State defense after Bradley Chubb left. So I think that that's something that really fits in with what the Broncos identified last year as something that they like. And so I would be thrilled about that pick. I'm going to go, and you can tell me if this is going to be a legal play or not, and I'll make adjustments accordingly. But for the safety linebacker slot, I want to take Voshawn Joseph out of Florida. Is that a fine selection?
you can either put him at safety linebacker or you can put him at linebacker. It depends on how it comes to me. I think my only gripe from my standpoint would be that Voshon Joseph struggles in coverage.
Oh, okay.
From what I've seen. So I probably would put him at linebacker.
Okay, let's put him at off-ball linebacker for now then. I love his speed and range. And so definitely wouldn't be afraid, I guess, to match him up in a man-to-man situation. Maybe he's not ready to be dropped in zones quite yet, but definitely love his speed and playmaking ability at the linebacker spot. I mean, you look at what he did this past season at Florida, 93 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. This guy gets after the ball, and he reacts quickly. And so, even though he lacks a little bit of size, I think I've got the hogs up front to protect him. And so I'm going to take him with that spot, and he's my first linebacker off the board.
Yeah, not a bad pick. And I see you're using the old school John Elway strategy, the Wade Phillips strategy, where linebacker, what is that? Never heard of it.
Yeah, we don't need those.
Vic Fangio would be yelling at you in the draft room right now.
Oh man!
All right. Well, I guess that leaves me here, and I'm gonna get my corners here, get this figured out, and I'm gonna go with Rock Ya-Sin. And I'm gonna actually put this guy in the slot. I think he's got the hips to be able to turn and run with pretty much anybody. I think he can. He's got that short area quickness that you really like, and it fits well with, because then I'm going to take my other big guy here. I'm going to take Lonnie Johnson, and so now I got 2 big guys on the outside, Rock Ya-Sin on the inside. I can play that cover 3, kind of the man zone coverage that Vic Fangio loves to run here, and I got a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things here. So it's not my favorite secondary, but when I'm the last guy picking secondary, I guess this is what I'll take.
I like it. I like that. I'm going to go with a little bit of a sleeper here. Last year, Darius Leonard was kind of a sleeper. I don't know if this guy is quite on that level. We'll see how he does at the combine and everything. But I'm taking Terrell. Yeah, I'm going to say Terrell Hanks out of New Mexico State. Don't know how to pronounce his name properly, apparently, but I've watched his games, and this guy is really, really good all-around player. Just flies to the football. Like same with Voshon Joseph. I mean, this is a guy who has 43.5 career tackles for loss, but he's also racked up 391 career tackles in total. So 8 career interceptions, 7 forced fumbles. We saw it with Darius Leonard coming out of South Carolina State last year. Just a guy who could really do everything. He could rush the passer. He could play in coverage. He could play the run really well. This guy, I don't know if he's quite on that same level, but a 4-year starter, highly, highly productive, and somebody who's going to come in and pair well, I think, with Voshon Joseph.
Alrighty, well, I have 2 picks on the board still, and my last 2 positions I have still are safety. I've probably with Gardner Johnson, I could go with a strong safety or a free safety because I think he's got the ability to do both, but man, I could go a number of ways, but I also have to take a nose tackle, and a guy that's been really linked to the Broncos as a nose tackle, probably one of the best one-technique nose tackles in this class as far as a guy that can get in the backfield in a hurry. He's not Quinnen Williams, but he can really get in there, shoot a gap, and he dominated the Shrine Bowl, and then he got a call up and dominated the Senior Bowl, and that's Dalen Mack from Texas A&M. He actually had an article come out today, I believe it was on the Athletic, but he actually battled some pretty serious depression while at Texas A&M his sophomore and junior year, and it wasn't until this last year that he really kind of got that under control, understood that it was okay to feel, have those things that happened. I mean, I'm not going to talk about mental health on here today, but he kind of got the help that he needed, and man, what a different player this. You could always see the tools, but he was a 5-star guy, built very low to the ground, and one of the true nose tackles in this class, and a perfect fit for the Broncos. So I'm going for just explosive pass rushers up front. I'm going to use a one-gapping scheme, but I got Wilkins, Mack, Gary, Bosa, and Burns on that defensive front. I got a lot of guys that can move around, do some different things, do some stunts, do some twists, and get after the quarterback. So Dalen Mack. And the last one here is a safety that, man, I don't feel like people like him as much as they should. I was a big fan of him last year. He flashes, he cuts in space really quickly. And I've another guy that I could see the Broncos being interested in because they have some some connection to this university as far as picking players, but Marquise Blair from the University of Utah, and man, he closes space just so incredibly quickly. I'm a huge fan of how he comes and hits, and he's got pretty good range, and I wouldn't say he's exactly like Deontay Thompson because he doesn't have the same instincts, but he can cover the space, and I think he can be an effective free safety, and I think he's better in coming downhill and making big hits. So you got that compared with Abram and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and man, just every single one of them is different. So I really like to get kind of versatile, different guys on the back end. Maybe blame the Patriots or something for that. But I really feel like they're all very, very unique and different. And just you got a Swiss Army knife approach to that secondary, and that's how I'll round out the draft for me.
I like that. That's a good pick there. I've got my safety linebacker hybrid guy left. Man, this is tough. I'm going to go with a guy who's at least got the size. It
could be an either or. It doesn't have to be safety linebacker. Yeah. It could be pure linebacker. Could be pure safety.
All right. Okay. Well, in that case, then I am going to go with Darnell Savage out of Maryland.
I thought about him too.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a really good player. All Big Ten selection. Obviously, guys from Maryland kind of fly under the radar a little bit up until we get to this point in time where everybody's kind of digging into tape. But he was a really good player this past year. 4 interceptions, 52 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss. Is a guy who can play in the box. He can play a little bit of free safety. I like what he can do, and so I'm going to take him to round out my roster.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, that leaves me with the very final pick of this draft. And I'm going to go, since I have my linebacker or safety guy here, I'm going to add another guy for the linebacker since, again, it's Vic Fangio. Got to get another linebacker for him that can cover, that can get into the run game, just can do a little bit of everything. And I'm going to go with a Notre Dame guy here.
Good pick.
Drew Tranquill. I like what this guy can do, especially in coverage. And again, I think he's a really good fit with what the Broncos look for. He's not the fastest guy, but he's not slow either. And I think he'd be perfect.
I'll be honest. I thought you were going to go with the other Notre Dame linebacker.
I thought about it, but I think Tranquill's a better coverage guy.
Yeah. That's why I thought you were going to go with the other linebacker, because I thought the other two were already high-end enough athletes where you're going for a more run funneler type.
Yeah, I guess I could have thought that way, but
you didn't though. It's all good.
I did. It's true. I'm just getting athletes, and I'm allowing. Again, I'm always thinking Broncos.
Yeah.
So Vic Fangio, I'm just saying, all right, you take these athletes, you turn them into something, and I think between these 3 guys, Broncos are going to have a heck of a linebacking core. Plus, you got some guys that can help out on special teams too. I mean, I know we're not thinking about that in this draft, but I like what he brings to the table.
Yeah, he used to be a safety, if I remember correctly. So I think that's a nice.
He legitimately is a linebacker safety hybrid.
Yeah,
that's what he is.
Yep.
So there you go. All right. Well, you guys want to run through your teams quickly?
Yeah, I can start off here. I'll start with my defensive line. And I think I got a pretty good, like I said, mix and match of Draymond Jones on one defensive end spot, Quinnen Williams in the middle, Jeffrey Tillery on the other side. So I got length, I've got speed, I've got power, got a little bit of everything. Whatever you like, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Then my edge guys, they're not going to be the quick twitch guys. They're not going to be the quickest to bend around the edge. But I think that they're both very, very powerful guys that's – what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to get a lot of day one production from these guys in Clelin Ferrell and Montez Sweat. I think that's they're not. It's not the mix and match that I was kind of hoping for, but at the same time, because I was able to strengthen some other positions and wait a little bit because of the depth in this draft, I think there's still a good 1-2 combo there. And then off ball, this is the strength of my team: Mac Wilson, Devin Bush, Drew Tranquill. These are 3 guys that can cover, they can run, they can get up and hit people in the run game. I like these guys, especially behind a guy like Jeffrey Tillery and Quinnen Williams, who can eat up blocks. They can make runners have to change direction, and boom, you got these guys hitting them. Then looking at my cornerback group, this is maybe the weak spot on my team. It's not maybe, it is the weak spot on my team. But Amani Aruye, Lonnie Johnson, two big guys on the outside. I'm playing a little bit more zone defense with this kind of group. And then I got Rock Ya-Sin, pretty athletic guy. I think he can cover the slot pretty well. And then look at my safety group, Deontay Thompson, a guy that can really cover that backside, can make plays, be a turnover machine for them. Then Juwan Thornhill, again, another big turnover guy in the backfield. So I just feel like this is a defense that can really, I mean, they might not get the most sacks. They might not get the most pressure. But I think my group probably of our three groups is going to get the most turnovers.
Maybe.
I like the confidence. I like the confidence, Carl. I like it. I like it. I'm gonna see your defensive front. I'm gonna raise you. Isaiah Buggs and Dexter Lawrence eating up those blocks with Ed Oliver, Josh Allen, and Ja'Kai Polite just feasting. Buggs and Lawrence have already they've made their living in college eating up blocks essentially and creating plays for other guys. So I really feel like those two guys, not only can they defend the run really well, but they can filter things for the pass rush. And Ed Oliver, the goal here is to get guys like Ed Oliver, Josh Allen, and Ja'Kai Polite as many one-on-one matchups as possible. And I don't think that if given the opportunity to get these guys at their fullest potential at the NFL level, I don't think there's an offensive line that would sleep well on Saturday night going into Sunday, knowing that they were going to face them. And I think Josh Allen specifically, he was my top pick in this draft. I feel like him with these guys on the interior I just feel like he would be so good at the next level. I think that obviously he's never played with anybody quite that good at Kentucky. So you put him on a team that already has guys who are capable of eating up blocks and creating on their own. Let's not undersell what Lawrence and Buggs can do. I think that Josh Allen would really be a nice centerpiece with those guys surrounded around him. And then Polite is a guy who, you might run right at him, but if you're talking about a 3rd and long situation, this is a guy who's going to get after the quarterback. And then behind those guys, I think that obviously I was the one who waited the longest to take off ball linebackers. And so looking at Voshawn Joseph and Terrell Hanks, I think that those two guys, they're definitely not the best linebackers in this class. I think Nick and you and Carl got those guys all taken off the board pretty early, but I love the speed. I love the versatility. I love the ability, especially for Hanks to play in coverage. And then I think Joseph has big time potential there. And then in the secondary, we've got Trayvon Mullen and DeAndre Baker out on the perimeter. I think that those guys have both a great combination of athleticism, experience, and upside, specifically Mullen on the upside department. And I really like my safety group. I really like the combination of Nasir Adderley and Taylor Rapp on the back end with Amani Hooker and Darnell Savage kind of playing in the box, playing around the ball, playing some man up coverage. I think that those guys, they might not take away the ball as much through the air, but they're going to hit you hard, and they're going to create turnovers one way or another. I think this group that I've got put together here would work really well as one unit.
All righty. Well, now I guess it's my turn. I don't want to be biased here, but I think I got the best semblance of pass rushers on the front five here with Christian Wilkins, Rashawn Gary, Dalen Mack, Nick Bosa, and Brian Burns. I could see any of these guys. I mean, I don't have Ed Oliver or Quinnen Williams. Too bad for Jeffrey Simmons being off here. I would have loved to have him. But Wilkins and Gary together, along with Bosa and Burns, I mean, I can play 4-3 under, I can play 3-4, I can play 4-3 over. I mean, I can just move these guys around and isolate them as need be. At linebacker, I got Devin White, he's going to be my Mike. He can move around, play coverage, but he can't do it alone. So then I got Jermaine Pratt to play next to him. Like Sayre said earlier, a team captain, a guy who's a converted safety, can play coverage as well, come downhill. He was a guy who played pretty well at the Senior Bowl as well. And then really the part where I think my roster is really set apart is the cornerbacks with Byron Murphy, Greedy Williams, and Julian Love. This is not a great cornerback year in my opinion, but I wouldn't be surprised if I walked out with 3 of the top 4 that end up in this class, the guys that can be moved around, as well as Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who honest to God, might be the best pure slot player in this class. My safeties I do not like as much as far as Marquise Blair and Jonathan Abram, although I think Jonathan Abram is going to rocket up boards after the combine because height, weight, speed guys always do well, and he's going to interview off the charts. And I really like Marquise Blair coming downhill and finishing up. So overall, this is a pretty close matchup. I will be putting this on Twitter at some point, as well as Lombardi Draft Talk, where we like to frequent as well to talk some football and draft prospects. But I think this is pretty even, and I wouldn't want to bet on any one of these teams winning right now. I think there are really good qualities about each one of them.
Yeah, and I think, again, just to rehash it too, it highlights how good of a defensive class this is. And so for the Denver Broncos specifically, I think that, you know, we're maybe underrating a little bit the needs that they have on defense. I don't know. I'm not necessarily pointing any fingers at anybody, but I think that just as a general whole Broncos country, we think the defense is pretty well taken care of. We've got Fangio, the best defensive coordinator in the game. We've got Von Miller, in my opinion, the best edge player in the game. And then you've got one of the best up and comers in Bradley Chubb. And so it's easy to think that things are all taken care of, but this is a class that's really going to help fortify the depth and some future starters for the Denver Broncos if they can hit on those picks. Maybe in round one, we'll see what happens, but for sure in the rounds beyond the first round.
Yeah, I'm kind of the mindset. I'd love to see the Broncos fortify the offense and free agency. Just one, if we have a rookie quarterback out there, I'd rather have a lot of veterans around him to really help out. Mm-hmm. And two, again, the strength of this draft really looks right here at the defense. I mean, you got guys at every level that I could see the Broncos really wanting to go after. And I'm looking at all three of our teams here, and I'm going, yeah, I wouldn't mind a lot of these guys being on the Broncos. And so it's going to be interesting how they decide to go about building this team for this season. But I like all three of our teams. Each of them have their different strengths. I really do think, I mean, just kind of talking about each of your guys, I really love, I'd say with Sayre's, that safety group, I almost went Nasir Adderley over Deontay Thompson.
Yeah.
Because I think he's really climbing up boards and really looking more like that guy that consistently shows he should be that top safety. I went with Deontay Thompson just because I know him a little bit better. I haven't watched as much of Adderley. But then Taylor Rapp, again, just a guy that's been, I think, a little underrated. I think some people have ripped him apart for the things he can't do, but there's a lot of things he can do well.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Amani Hooker, again, have we heard this before? A Iowa player that seems like they're limited athletically. So are they going to be able to make the transition to the NFL? That sounds pretty familiar. Mm-hmm. And it seems like those Iowa players always show up well in the NFL because they're football players. And then, like you said, for you, Nick, that cornerback group, I'm a little jealous.
Yeah.
I decided to go in a different direction.
I was like, I need to scoop this up. That's going to have to be my second.
When you took Julian Love, I said a few choice words. I had to mute the mic for a second. But no, I mean, that was kind of my last corner that I was like, okay, please get there because he could be that true number one that I was hoping for, and it just didn't happen. So I love that secondary there. And of course you got the pass rusher, Nick Bosa. I mean, hard to argue with Nick Bosa as the number one pick in this draft. But again, this is just a good group depending on what you like. If you like interior, if you like off ball guys, if you like safety or cornerback play, we got a little bit of everything.
Absolutely. Well, Sayre, thank you very much for coming on. I know that you have a busy schedule over there running PO and the Knights of Den and everything, but we always appreciate you coming on, offering your insights, and just chatting football with us.
Absolutely, guys. It's great. I'm so glad we get to interact daily. You know, I mean, we're always talking on Facebook and whatnot and Twitter. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Broncos country's got some great camaraderie. It's definitely been great for me over the years. And so I'm glad to see it blossoming into what it is today. I love it.
And the crazy thing is people sometimes like to tune in and hear what we have to say. That still blows my mind.
I love it. I love it.
Well, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Building the Broncos, powered by Overtime Media. You can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH, and you can find Sayre on Twitter at Sayre Bedinger. That's Bedinger. Make sure you follow both of them because they are great follows. And sometimes, Carl, you need to be out there a little bit more on Twitter sometimes. You need to give me some crap or something. Eric and I always going back and forth. Got to get that tennis rip back and forth going. Talk some crap about my team or something. Also, make sure you head on over to Mile High Huddle, an affiliate of 24/7 Sports and the CBS Sports Digital, to find more covering the Denver Broncos. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and commercial. Your support can help us continue to bring you our Denver Bronco deep dives. You can follow the Building the Broncos podcast and all our other great audio content by subscribing to the Huddle Up podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter, at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. For Carl and Sayre, I'm Nick Kendell, wrapping up another episode of Building the Broncos podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you soon. Go Broncos and go draft.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.